Shoot that shit. Shoot that shit, boy. Shoot that shit up. Hello, everyone. Today, I will be your lore keeper today. Alright, for a celebration of Elden Ring's new DLC, this is the Fromsoft Lecture. Right? This took tons of time to prepare and get ready, but strap on in because we have a long journey ahead of us. We are going to go through 5 games and the development and an introspective of the director Miyazaki. Alright, our boy the GOAT, who basically made this whole franchise. Alright. Unfortunately, due to budget cuts, we cannot get to Sekiro or Bloodborne.
This shit's trash!
Unfortunately, we ran out of runes, ran out of souls. It wasn't in the budget, guys. So we're gonna skip those over. Maybe, like, if everyone has enough energy, they have enough fucking power, enough energy, they can lend it to me and I can finish Bloodborne or Sekiro.
Their status effect is food coma.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's about to fall asleep. We're all about to die. Okay, we're about to go to the next world. Like Raymond poisoned the food, so we gotta get through this shit quick.
Nigga, I'm just dying of hunger.
So, let's get started with the man behind the slaughter, the person who invented it all, Miyazaki. So Miyazaki is a very interesting figure, right? He's literally like, when you think of like brainchild for a franchise, like this guy is it. This guy is like the one-man show. You know the Guilty Gear guy? You know, like that dude, like in the beginning, he directed the game, made the music, made the art, like one-man show. He's basically kind of like a one-man show, kind of like steer this whole thing into a direction. But he has like a weird kind of like childhood. So his background in games are like none, right? When he was like a child, like in Japan, games are like fucking huge. Like games are like the #1 thing. Like you go to arcade games, you like play fucking Dragon Quest. Like Japan shuts down every time there's a new Dragon Quest. It's that bad. Like that's how much they love games. Miyazaki was not allowed to play any video games until he was 19 years old in university. That was the first time he has ever played a game. And around that time was around 1981 when he was 19. And the first game he like played was fucking Ocarina of Time. So he kind of made it, but he missed the bus for a lot of important, influential games. Bro missed fucking the NES, the SNES, fucking Dragon Quest 3. This dude could not play Dragon Quest 3. Like that's like everyone's favorite, like every Japanese boy's favorite fucking game. Right? So he has a very like interesting kind of background in games, but having like no background in gaming. Right? He never like grew up with games and kind of felt like how it felt, you know, like games kind of have this way of playing that you kind of follow linearly, right? Like we all know the rules, like you have lives, you have this, you have that, based on the past games we played in the past. He has no background knowledge in that at all until he was 19 in college, in university. What he did in his childhood, however, is he loved reading and he loved adventure books, right? Reading like novels, like Western novels, like fucking Moby Dick. He read manga. He read like Berserk when he was 15 while it was like coming out, right? And that's one of the 2 main mangas on his shelf. Like he has an interview when he shows his shelf of all like his favorite like influences, right? The top 2 mangas on that shelf was Devilman and Berserk. Right, so he has like this big love of dark fantasy from the beginning. Like that's one of his favorite genres. He always wanted to kind of like plan something out with that. You gotta go to the bathroom? No, like.
You can see, I can hear you though.
Okay. So another big influence, and this one's I think one of the most important ones, is he loved adventure books. Right, adventure books, when you kind of like read a story and you're just, you know, going through the adventure, you're like, oh, turn to page 15 and see what happens to you. Like he would make the story up as he went, right? Because you don't get background lore. All you get is like, for example, he tells this like tale in one of his adventure books where you go to an island, right? And if you choose to go to that island on a ship, you fucking die, right? And you don't know how you died, so he kind of like interprets like, oh, this is how I probably went out, right? And that kind of like imagining a narrative is like a big influence, and in all his games, because a lot of it you have to interpret. There's a lot of interpretation within Miyazaki's work and Miyazaki's games. A lot of it you kind of have to piece together, kind of like an archaeologist. You kind of have to dig up what bones you can see in the game, read the descriptions, and make an interpretation on the lore of it. Right? All stemming from sword and sorcery, you know, adventure games. Even in Elden Ring, there are poses and enemies that look just like the illustrations from the sword and sorcery games. Right? But in college, he went to Keio University, and like Keio University is like the university. Like it's motherfucking like Harvard, bro. It's motherfucking Yale. You know the Prime Minister, one of the top people in Japan, 3 of those guys came from this university. Like tons of like the top CEOs' children, they go to Keio University. Right? All these like extremely prestigious people go to this university and they were extremely successful, right? So it's like it's a big school. It's a respected university. And it really shows that he wasn't no slouch. Like this guy is legitimately like one of the smart, like a book smart individual. He's very studious. Right? But he majored in sociology and psychology. Right? And in interviews, he always says like this has like the biggest impact on why he makes games the way he makes it, because it's like a weird kind of social experiment. It's like some kind of like, it shaped his worldview of like, oh, how would someone react when you could make messages? Like anyone could just read the message you can put down. Would you fuck with people? Would you try to help people? You don't know. And that mechanic is in like almost every From Software game. Any player can just write down some bullshit. It could be fake, it could be real, it could be Fortnite, it could be anything. Right? Basically, like how text works is there's like a sign on the floor and you can read it, and it's a message from a amount of words you have. Right? You can't just type something in. It's on a list of words that you can pick out. Right? And people can come up with like really funny shit. But that kind of experimental, like weird, kind of like, oh, how would a player use this in a game? Has always kind of stems from his life in college when he studied psychology and sociology, right? But tragedy struck. Unfortunately, he couldn't really. He always wanted to get into the games industry, but he couldn't for a couple of reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because he needed money, right? He needed money. His sister had to go to college. They didn't have the funds to bring her to college, so he's like, fuck, I gotta get a real job, right, and make a boatload of money in order to support my sister and support my family. So after getting out of college, he becomes a literal IT guy. He's an IT guy, right? He works at this place called Oracle, and he's literally a wage slave from like fucking, he was 19, 20, till like 22 to 30 years old. Like he's at this company for almost a decade. Right? And it's a comfy job. He was promoted to manager at this position. So he was making a boatload of money, and he probably wouldn't have left that comfy job unless like something really inspired him to do it. And like I can't emphasize how important a job is in Japan. Right? It's fucking crazy important. Right? There's a saying that you get married twice. Once to your wife and once to your company. And the company always comes first. Like, it's crazy. Right? So when you, like, pick out a company, you stay there for the rest of your life. And you are groomed from the beginning. You apply for jobs on your 3rd year of college. Right? You buy yourself a black suit. Right? You get your portfolio and all your achievements and all your academic skills. Right? And you go to company and you pick which one you want to go to. Right? And once you're in there, you're locked in. And that decides your whole life. Your social standing, how people see you. You are the job, bro. So he is married to this job at Oracle as an IT guy for almost 8 years. Right? Until he's 29. During that time, a special game comes out called Econ. Right? Econ is like one of the most important. I didn't know how fucking big Econ is, but when this game came out, like it inspired so many people to make kind of story narrative games. The guy who made Uncharted was inspired by Econ. The guy who made The Last of Us was inspired by Econ. And Econ is kind of like a narrative game with no dialogue. No one talks. It's just like a girl and like a boy, and they hold hands and they get through the whole game without talking, but you see their relationship grow through actions alone. And that inspires tons of people like Miyazaki. Miyazaki looks at that shit and he's like, games are like an art form that you can do shit in. Like, games are an interesting avenue to try to tell a narrative, and I want to get behind that. You know, I need to be a part of this type of idea. So, he's going through all the lists of the companies he can join. And listen, when you're 29, you're damn near 30 in Japan, it's really hard to get a job because you got no experience in that area. Right? Imagine being an electrician for like fucking 10 years and you want to go work at insurance or some shit. Right? They're like listen dude, you missed the boat. Alright? You don't want to change paths now? That's crazy. So the likelihood of a company hiring them, like Sony, Square Enix, you know, like a big-ass company like that, it's very unlikely. But he lands a job at this small, little, almost indie studio called Fromsoft. Fromsoft is hiring people for the next Armored Core game, right? And he was able to kind of get in. I guess he impressed them in the interview process, and he just... So, like, Fromsoft's hiring process was interesting. They basically asked him, like, a bunch of questions, and they just liked the way he answered those questions, you know. He has something moving in his head. And he goes on Armored Core 2 or 3 as a scenario writer and scenario planner, right? And because of that, he's able to get enough experience in gaming for only 1 year, right? Because tragedy strikes on Armored Core 4. The captain is missing in action. The director of Armored Core 4 is unable to do the task, right? And with no one kind of volunteering for the position, he takes up that role like, okay, I'll be the director, right? And this is his first year. This is his like first year of like being a game dev. But because the studio is so small and like so niche, he's able to be promoted very quickly, right? And because he has the skills to back it up, people let him do it. So he becomes the director of Armored Core 4. It does pretty well, right? And he becomes a developer, right? He becomes a director of games. And in Japan, when you're the director, bro, you are the master planner, right? If you're a supervisor, you don't do shit, high key. If someone supervises a game, nothing is happening behind the wheel. But he is the director. He's planning the story, the scenarios, the gameplay, how everything connects, right? And then something happens around the early 2000s, around 2007, 2008. A game is released. It's called Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Elder Scrolls Oblivion comes out. And Sony's like, holy fuck, this shit's badass. I fuck with this shit so hard. We need to compete with Microsoft. We need our own RPG franchise to mod this RPG franchise for us to succeed, right? So like, what developers work on RPGs and niche shit? Fromsoft. Fromsoft has a long history. Even before Miyazaki, they made King's Quest. They made Shadow Tower. All these kind of like, you know, first-person dungeon crawling games. So they hire Fromsoft to work on Demon Souls. And Miyazaki doesn't work on Demon Souls. He's working on the next Armored Core game. Right, he's directing the next Armored Core game. Armored Core 4 or whatever. There's a lot of Armored Core games. But development on Demon Souls is going terribly. The shit is not coming out right. It started development, just a little like side. It started development in 2005. It doesn't come out till 2009. Right? So it's in development hell for a minute. Right? And while this chaos is happening, right, he kind of steps in and says, hey, maybe I can get a crack at this, right? Because again, they were trying to make a 1-for-1 clone. They're basically making a Marlin clone. They're trying to make a Bolivian clone, right? So like he comes in there and he changes the whole thing. He's like, this is not going to be in first person. We should have it in third person, right? And he has always wanted to make a dark fantasy games based on the manga he worked on, based on the adventure books he read as a kid. Like this is his shot to kind of have a vision enacted, right? So he takes over the director role of Demon Souls, right? While it's in turmoil, right? And there's tons of shit that happens, but the main thing is he managed to influence the direction so much that they changed the camera angle and they changed everything to have one vision. So Miyazaki, yeah.
Wait, so he was just able to take over the Demon Souls project?
Yeah.
Who was directing that? Or because he just
No one really knows.
He just mobbed them.
It's because like they just didn't have. Yeah, the guy just left.
Oh.
They didn't have the development was going so bad it wasn't getting anywhere, so they just needed someone new to direct it. And while this is happening, Miyazaki's also directing Armored Core at the same time, so he's directing 2 games at once. So, yeah, third person. He changes the game to third person, and the way he develops games is like he's like insane in the membrane. Like when you like make a story, your goal is to make the story, right? It's like, oh, I want to make a good ass story. I want to add cool characters. I want to add this. I want to add that. He wants to like make a experience. I know that sounds like cringe and like cheesy, but he literally wants to craft. He wants to make people feel how he felt, right? So he wants people to express the same emotions and the same kind of like feelings of his adventure books through a game. When you have to imagine what the fuck is going on while the gameplay is happening, and he wants to give people a sense of accomplishment, right? He's trying to invoke these 2 feelings within the audience. So this influences Demon Souls less to be a Morrowind clone and more of the Dark Souls kind of From Software formula we know today, right? And it's shown off in this big old thing called Tokyo Game Show in around 2007, I believe. 2007 to 2008, right? Tokyo Game Show, it's like the E3. It's like, where you get to play test all the games and, when E3 was still around, right? So they're like, okay, we're going to have the public test out our game. It's going to be great, right? So they let the thing ride, let the thing rock, and it does fucking terribly. Every Japanese person who played Demon Souls thought it was dog shit. It's clunky. It's slow. People went up to the character select and they went, nah, I ain't playing this, and they just walked out, right? And having a game like Demon Souls come out during that time is kind of crazy in perspective. If you know what came out during the time, right next to it, literally, they were at the same Tokyo Game Show. Bayonetta was in that same fucking Tokyo Game Show. Fucking Bayonetta, the fucking crazy action game that makes you fucking move 1,000,000 miles per hour, killing demons and shit, killing angels, right? And then you have clunky Demon Souls there. Only 5 people were able to beat the demo, and they fucking hated it, right? So then, From Software, they're like shedding bricks. They're like, oh my god, dude, we're cut. We're so cut. We're gonna get a letter from Sony closing this project, and it's gonna die. But they never get the letter. They never get like the eviction notice of like, dude, this shit's not gonna sell, right? And again, they were also kind of duplicitous during this because they never mentioned in all the pitch meetings for Demon Souls, they never mentioned the difficulty. They mentioned like, oh, it's an epic fantasy, dark adventure, third-person action game. Never mentioned the difficulty and how that could alienate an audience. Right? So, finally, Demon Souls comes out 2009 in Japan. And it does fucking terribly! It doesn't sell anything. It sells 20,000 copies. That's it. They completely flubbed it. Yeah.
Was this PS2 era?
PS2.
Oh, okay.
Came out during the PS2. So it's completely fucked. They're like, oh my god, we're cooked. This shit didn't sell nothing, right? But this is during the times of like the super early internet, 2006, 2009. That's like early internet, and like it's becoming more of a traction for shit, you know? Piracy is becoming a thing, and people, Americans who went to Japan, found this cool little dinky game called Demon Souls, and they're like, whoa, what a weird game. Like, Japan made this, like, Western RPG action game that's hella hard? That's weird, right? So it becomes this weird, like, Western cult following, right? Of people who really fuck with Demon Souls. And eventually, Fromsoft and Sony are like, okay, the Western people seem to enjoy this. Let's release it in the West and see how it does. And it fucking crushes it in the West. 200,000 copies. No weak ass 20,000 copies. 200,000 people love this game in the West. They think it's base, they think it's kingly, and they appreciate the difficulty and the like the sense of accomplishment of beating it. It's like prestige. I beat this. I beat Demon Souls. I'm a real one, right? It's a way for you to flex on your neighbors, right? And again, this is during the era of like Spike TV. Like, this is how you get your gaming news. It's from G4, Spike TV, Edge Magazine, all that shit, right? Comes from here, right? So Demon Souls is a smash hit, and it's actually the best-selling From Software game ever. It mogs King Quest, it mogs Shadow Tower, it mogs Armored Core. This shit is hot in the West. Western people fuck with this hella hard. I don't know what the Japanese were thinking. I mean, dude, like, the game was so ahead of its time. The Japanese audience just did not fuck with it at all. I have no idea why. But now it's like in manga. Like, you see it all the time. Like, they're playing Dark Souls in the background. Like, that's in Dragon Maid. They're playing fucking Dark Souls in Dragon Maid. Like, so eventually they caught on. But from the beginning, like, Japan did not fuck with the game series. So we're gonna, fast forward a bit. Dark Souls is made and smash it, and that's when it becomes like officially like, bro, we are the company. We are FromSoft. We're the Dark Souls guys. Yeah.
What about Demon Souls?
Demon Souls? Yeah, that's what I mean. That was Demon Souls.
You said Dark Souls.
Yeah, but that's the next game they made. After Demon Souls, they made Dark Souls, and that was a smash hit, like instantly.
Dark Souls was the smash hit?
Yeah.
But Demon Souls sold well in the West, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. For some reason, Japan, no one fucked with it. But like Western people, again, they picked up the game. They're like, "Whoa, this is hella fucking weird. This is like a cult following type beat. I'm gonna put it on my gaming blog, right?" And people caught on. They're like, "Oh my god, this should be released in the West."
Did they fuck with Dark Souls?
Dude, everyone fucked with Dark Souls. I didn't know. I thought Dark Souls was this niche thing that no one knew about. Dude, every gaming magazine fucked with Dark Souls. Every like media thing thought this was a fucking masterpiece. That this was incredible. All that shit. Right? And it's time for us to actually start talking about the lore. We'll go on to the lore for Dark Souls 2 because there's a very special development cycle for that game. But on to like what's actually in Demon Souls. What was so interesting about Demon Souls that, became such a fascination in the West, right? So the story of Demon Souls is pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and but it also has that discovery element. You got the item descriptions. You got these different lands. Like, there's this one land that's completely destroyed, and you never know about it. You can only interpret what the fuck goes on in that land. So, the game starts. God, fucking big-ass guy, God, he rolls up. First day, creates these things called souls, right? And a soul is not like energy. It's like consciousness. Like, now that you have a brain, and you are aware of your surroundings, souls are invented, right? And what do people do with their souls? They find out that they can actually use magical powers using their soul, called soul arts, and start killing each other, like immediately, right? So God is so pissed off that these people are using like intelligence and like their souls for fucking evil. He's like, the second day, he adds the Ancient One. And the Ancient One is basically a demon. Right? A demon. So basically, he adds demons into the world. And what demons do is they take your soul, right? They take your soul, aka they take your consciousness, right? And once they take your consciousness, you become soul starved. You want to be able to like think and feel like a normal person, right? So you start like attacking people, and you basically get inducted in like a gang, right? So there's like a gang of demons, right? And the head of the gang of demons is called an archdemon, right? And the head of the archdemon is the Ancient One. And they're giving all the souls and the consciousness to the Ancient One, right? So mankind's getting destroyed. These demons are hella strong. And these people called the monoliths, they're basically like the main, like the strongest people in this age, right? And they see that humans are getting fucked with, right? Humans are getting destroyed, right? So they basically get everyone like, hey guys, we can't use magic anymore. Fuck magic. Magic is bad. We can't use our soul to use magic. It's gonna kill people and shit, right? And eventually, the world is so fucked up and destroyed. And well, it's crazy because lore interacts with gameplay, right? That's where you get the fog doors. The fog doors comes from demon souls because when you go through a fog door, you're becoming physically aware of that environment. That environment exists again. So if an area is like completely covered in fog and no one's aware of its existence, it fucking disappears and dies. So like the game is all about consciousness and awareness, and if you don't remember like a place, you're not conscious that something like exists outside of your peripheral vision, it fucking is, it's just physically not there, right? But after all that, the monoliths manage to convince people no magic, right? And like the realm gets kind of better, and there's like 6, 7 kingdoms that roll up because of that, right? But one guy named King Alon, this dude shows up to this place called the Nexus. So the monoliths, they live on like, they're separated, right? Like everything's super far away, but you can teleport using this thing called the Nexus, and the Nexus is kind of like this dimension in space, right? Where you can basically go to any other country through this place called the Nexus, right? Unfortunately, this guy named Alon, he discovers the Nexus, and he discovers soul arcs again, right? People forgot like magic exists because it was, super traumatizing, and then like a church rolled up saying like magic is bad. If you use witchcraft, it'll fucking kill you, right? That's what you do. But he discovers magic again, and he becomes like the strongest king. Because like, bro, you're able to use fucking magic? Like, listen, bro, what's your bow and arrow gonna do to my fireball? And you're just cooked, right? You're done. Right? So he becomes powerful, and then all the other civilizations start using magic again. And then God gets angry, and the Ancient One wakes up. Before, back in the day, he was put to sleep thanks to like this woman who's also a demon, who is your firekeeper, right? Called the Maiden in Black. She's connected to the Dark One, and she can basically put him to sleep, right? But she's stuck in the Nexus, right? And the only way you can escape the Nexus and meet the Great One is if you destroy the gangs of demons. You gotta defeat all the archdemons that are fucking up all these realms, right? And then the archdemon will choose you. They'll choose you as like a champion. They're like, okay, but this guy destroyed all these archdemons. He's a real one, right? And you're given a choice. This is like the first like ending kind of thing. Like you get to choose what kind of ending you want. And unlike the other games, it's pretty black and white. You either like are a good guy, we put to sleep the Great One, and you walk off. Or, so basically, after all this shit happens, after you kill all the archdemons, you are granted audience with the Great One, or the Ancient One, right? So you go up, and he's like this giant bug. He's like kind of like a giant like forest caterpillar thing, right? And who do you see inside the Great One? King Alon, the dude who rediscovered magic, is there. And he's like this weird like glob monster. And he's like, man, what do you think was gonna happen? We must ascend. We must become powerful again, right? So you felt him, and you get rid of him. He's like a weak ass boss because he's so corrupted and filled with gunk and shit. And the Maiden in Black, she leaves the Nexus and she's with you, and she's gonna put the Ancient One to sleep. And you have a choice to hit her and kill her and join the Great One and be like a demon lord type beat, or you let her, you say goodbye to her, and she puts the Great One to sleep, and you walk home as a fucking hero, right? And that's the basic stories of Demon Souls, right? It was recently remade, and dude, the cutscene when you become the Demon Lord is 10 times fucking badass and brutal. So when you attack her, like a cutscene plays, and you like walk over her corpse, right? And you just talk to the Demon Lord. Dude, in the fucking game, in the remake, what you do, bro, after you hit her, you fucking stomp on her head, bro. You go, like she's like some kind of fucking bug. Like she's some kind of ant, right? And then you join the Demon Lord and become like the king of demons. And he just goes, more souls! Get me more souls! Right? That's Demon Souls. That's the basic thing that happens in Demon Souls. There are callbacks to Demon Souls in other games. You get the Storm Lure's great, you know, like the thing you killed Yorm the Giant in Dark Souls 3. Basically, like weapons come back. Yeah.
I don't think they know who you are.
Yeah, they don't know. Like that's later on. That's later on. Yeah.
Chronologically, when does Demon Souls take place?
I was about to get to it. It does not take place. Dark Souls is a whole new universe.
Oh.
They totally cleave it. It's just like callbacks. The fog doors are there. The way like enemies' boss health is there. The exploration, like the gameplay shit, is always the same. Yeah.
Just like a weird question. Is there like a Pixar theory where there's like a possibility that there's like some connection?
Yeah, there's something like that, and that's mostly from Elden Ring.
Elden Ring?
Elden Ring. A lot of people say like a lot of these endings go to different FromSoft games, but that's just a fan theory. That I don't believe it. I personally don't believe it. But yeah. So there's like callbacks and like yeah.
Everything is falling.
What?
Everything is falling.
I think it's falling. Shit, no, you're close. I got. Let's go. Thank you. But yeah, so that's Demon Souls. There's callbacks. Even some characters come back. Like this guy named Patches. He's almost in every Dark Souls game and like Bloodborne and like any FromSoft games. There's like a Patches-esque figure. And Patches, his name like Patches the hyena, right? Patches the hyena. He has like this striped thing. And he's just like kind of like a trickster character. He's like a trickster merchant. He fucks with you, he like knocks you down cliff. Like that's like a running joke in FromSoft games. Patches is almost in every Dark Souls game, and he always tries to push you off a cliff and like make you look like a goofy guy. Right? But he's lovable, we all love Patches. Right, so that's Demon Souls. Are there any other questions for Demon Souls? Okay. On to the big one. This one's gonna be huge. Right? We can put down Mr. Miyazaki. Thank you, Miyazaki. We may bring you back, Miyazaki, later. It's time for us to bring out Dark Souls, bro. I'll put it on the element. Put this up for now, because we're not going to go back to the Miyazaki one. So, Dark Souls. Crazy shit happens. What happens is, in the beginning, there's nothing. There's literally nothing. There's no time, there's no space. There's no light, there's no light, there's nothing. It's literal nothingness, right? The only thing that are chilling there are like dragons, right? But they're like the masters of nothing. They just kind of like exist, right? So eventually, like kind of like the Big Bang, just boof, this fucking fire shows up called the First Flame, right? And the First Flame introduced this concept called disparity. Right, this is very important. It adds disparity. It adds hot and cold, dark and light, up and down, shit like that. Things are different in different places. It also adds this thing called motherfucking time. You know, the disparity of time, the disparity of space, all comes from the First Flame, right? Adds disparity. And like 4 epic Lord Souls, right? So like 4 of these kind of like homunculi looking like they're like fat addicts. They're coming out of the dark and they see the fire for the first time. And the fire comes with souls as well. And souls, they're not like souls from Demon Souls. They're not consciousness per se, but they're like energy, right? They're like power, right? A soul. So there are four of those guys. One guy's named Gwyn, and he gets a special soul. It's called the Lord Soul. So Gwen kind of becomes like Zeus in a way. He becomes like the god of the gods. He's hella strong. He has lightning and shit. He's literally like Zeus. For real. Right? That's Gwen. Another person named the Witch of Isolus. Right? She's like a woman. She's like a witch. And she gets the life soul. Like she gets the life fire soul. Yeah.
Which soul did Gwendolyn get?
He got the Lord's soul. The Lord's soul. It makes him like the king. It makes him based. It makes him fucking Chad. It's like my male. Right? So the Witch of Isolus, she gets the life soul. This guy named Nito, Grave Lord Nito, he gets the death soul and becomes a skeleton. He literally like becomes like an evil, spooky skeleton. Like Nito's a badass. I love Nito. He has the best design. That's Nito. And the last guy is weird. This dude is called the Furred Pygmy, right? The Furred Pygmy. And he gets the Dark Soul. He gets the motherfucking Dark Soul. But he doesn't keep the Dark Soul. What he does is he gets the Dark Soul and he fucking shatters it and spreads it all over the world, right? And the Dark Soul inhabited these things called humans? Fucking humans, bro? Right? And that's how people are made. All humans in this land come from the Dark Soul. Come from the Furred Pygmy. Like, the Dark Soul within you is like your emotions, your anger, your passion. It's like who you are. That's your Dark Soul. That's your motherfucking Dark Soul. That makes you human, yes.
So is that much more like Demon Souls, where it's like consciousness?
It's not exactly consciousness. It's more like emotion, and like it's kind of like free will.
Okay.
It's kind of like free will, the ability to act for your own interests, right? So this big event is called the Age of Fire. The Age of Fire starts, and like Gwen is on top, right? He's on top. He's the main guy. But the problem is there's these pesky little things called dragons. Motherfucking dragons are still in the world, and they're hella strong. Like dragons are like immortal and shit, right? They're like immortal and shit, yeah.
They've been there since
the beginning, since the Age of Nothingness. They have always been there. They're like the head honchos. They're just so good at doing nothing that they don't mind if there's no time or space or anything like that. But there is one dragon who is so seething. His name is Seath. He's seething. Because he was born with no scales. Dragons are immortal due to their stony scales. He was born with no scales. So he can die. He's immortal. He's a mortal dragon. And he's envious of his race. He's like, how come I can't be immortal and they can be immortal? This is bullshit. So he goes to Gwen and he snitches about their weakness. Yeah?
Just to be clear, he's mad because the other four can be like immortal?
No. He's mad at the dragons. Because Seath the Scaleless is a dragon.
But he's not immortal. Okay.
Yeah, he was born without scales that made him immortal. Right? So he's just hella fucking angry. So he snitches on his own race. He betrays his own race and tells them the weakness of the dragons, which is lightning. Lightning can fell dragons. Hella bad. So Gwen goes on this crazy war against the dragons, and everyone gets tons of clout. The war with the dragons is like this big ass war, and it's a tough war. For every one dragon Gwen and his armies kill, 3 people die. Right? So it's a lot of fucking people died, and a lot of people got knighthood. A lot of people got credit. Right? But the thing is, humans are under subjugation by Gwen. For certain reasons I will bring up a little later, but essentially all humans kind of obey Gwen at this point. Because he's like Zeus, bro. Like, I'm not going to step up to a god, step up to Zeus. Nah, bro. I'm good. I think I'm just going to chill and work for the guy. So, like a bunch of organizations are made, like the 4 Knights of Gwen's. There's like 4 very famous Knights of Gwen who like make a bunch of clout. You know, there's Goth, the giant. He has this big ass bow, and what he would do, he would shoot down a dragon. The dragon would fall, and then all his allies would jump him. jump that dragon that fell down, right? Goth the sniper. There's this guy named Artorias. He had like a wolf. He was like the wolf knight, bro. The guy was sick. Everyone loves Artorias. And like even to this day, out of all the 4 Knights of Gwyn, he's the most popular and loved one. There's a story of him saving this city. Saving a princess, saving the city. People sing of Artorias' greatness. And his battle against this thing called the Abyss. Right? But that's another thing. Coming up later. Right? So a bunch of people, you know, they get clout. You know, they get prestige. But the war's over. And unfortunately, something goes wrong, guys. The Age of Fire, it's ending. For some reason, the flame is getting weaker and weaker, right? And the fire is not just a fire of power and like energy and shit like that. It is disparity itself. It is like reality as we know it. So when the fire goes down, the concepts that keep the world together go down. That's why time is convoluted. Time is fucked because the fire is getting weaker and weaker and weaker, causing all these weird, you can see phantoms from other timelines, from other worlds, because the concept of time is going away. So Gwyn and his squad are fucking panicking. They're like, oh my god, dude, we need a way to keep this fire going, right? And each one of them tries to come up with a way to keep the fire going, but it doesn't work. For example, the Witch of Isolus, she tries to make like a new fire, right? A new flame, right? So, like, imagine we have one fire, let's just make another one. I have the soul of life. I have the Lord's soul of life. I can just make a new fire. And she tries to make a new fire, and it goes horribly wrong, right? The fire is out of control. It's not disparity. It's chaos, right? It's life itself, right? So her and all her children are mutated into demons. And this is how the demon race is caused. And Gwyn's like, what the fuck, you're a demon? Oof! And he goes to war with the Witch of Isolus. But the problem of the Dark Soul is still going on. And what's worse, there's a new plague, a new disease. It's called the Undead Curse. People die, but they don't die. They come back to life, right? And after a while, without meaning, without any type of idea of like life itself and purpose, they become hollow, right? Which is basically, you're like a zombie. You're like a fucking sullen fucking demon just walking around attacking people, right? And this is all caused, yeah? And this is all caused by this guy, the Dark Soul, right? I'll move it so you guys can see it. So this is like the average man's soul, right? In order to subjugate humans, because there's a prophecy that the fire would fade and the age of darkness will rise, right? And the people who would inherit the earth when the age of darkness comes, humans, baby, us. We have a dark soul. We were supposed to inherit the earth. The age of fire was supposed to end, go to the age of dark. Humans rise up, gamers rise up. Right? But Gwyn sees this, and what he decides to do is he traps our dark soul within this thing called the dark sign. The dark sign seals our dark soul from the rest of our body, right? And because of that, that is causing unintended consequences, right? What that causes is your dark soul to be angry, right? Because it wants to leave, right? It's waiting for the age of darkness, right? So it slowly starts seeping out, causing this hollowing process. And people become consumed by their dark soul. Or they're more like shadow. If we want to do like Jungian psychology, it's like your shadow. Like your shadow comes out. And all like the negative attributes you feel and you kind of have overtakes your regular human like guy body, right? It fucking possesses it, making you into an evil fucking hollow, right? So this is a huge fucking problem. The Age of Fire is going out. People are becoming undead and shit. What's going on? So Gwyn, in his last desperation, he wants the Age of Fire to happen forever because disparity is cool. And guess what? He's on top. You know, I'm Zeus. I'm the god of gods. You know, I get to fuck as many bitches as I want. I get to like eat all the steak I want. I'm on top, and I don't want this idea of my life work to go away. So he decides to do something drastic, right? Super drastic. He decides to throw himself into the first flame. The first flame, the first kiln. He sacrifices his big ass soul, his huge ass soul, into the first flame. And that keeps it from dying. He kindles the fire using himself, and that extends the life. It's almost like time reverts all the way back from the beginning of the Age of Fire, perpetuating this Age of the Gods. But that does not last forever. Eventually the flame will go out, and guess what? It's going out now, right? And now we can actually start with the beginning of the game. So, you are this guy. Every Dark Souls guy has a badass name. And you're called the Chosen Undead, right? You're the Chosen Undead. So you get saved by this guy named Oscar, right? And he's like, oh, dude, seek the Bell of Awakening. You know, Link the First Flame, save this age. You must save the world. Meet the gods, right? But Oscar is such a weak bitch. He gets mogged by like a boulder, and he gets cooked, and you just leave him. But it sucks, right? It's a basic journey. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the gods. I'm gonna light the first flame. I'm gonna save the world. Oh yada yada. But shit, there's like weird holes. Because when Oscar talked about the prophecy, he said there was a bell of awakening. When you go to the Firelink Shrine, right, and you meet this guy, and he's like an adventurer, right? He's like a veteran undead, right? All the undead are trying to be champions, right? Because it's like a disease. The undead curse is happening to everybody, every human, right? And because of that, they're gonna go hollow, right? And once you basically lose your consciousness, you basically become kind of soul-starved, like in Demon Souls. You become a soul-starved being, right, with no purpose. So he sees like a bunch of people die from the same journey, and he like mocks them and he laughs at them. He's like, "This is so foolish. You don't even believe in this stupid shit." And he says, "Bell of Awakening? You mean bells of awakening? There's 2 bells of awakening." And it's like, what the fuck? This wasn't a part of the prophecy, right? And there's fucking trauma and toughness throughout the whole journey in order to try to have an audience with the gods, right? In order to kind of, again, your goal is to save the world. And after you progress enough, you see a giant snake. This giant snake named either France or Frat. They're called weird ass shit. But this guy just was like, yeah, dude, you're doing good. You're poggers, light the first flame. You got this, bro. But if you journey through the game in a certain way, right? And again, all the mechanics, all the lore is connected to the game, the mechanics, and how you feel. Like, this game is hard. Like, that's no joke. Especially, like, if you play modern games. Like, you're coddled as, like, a person who plays games, right? It's like, oh, I get lives, I get hella health, you know, I know where to go. Dark Souls doesn't hold your hand at all. You basically have to do all the legwork. You can lose XP. So essentially you have these things called souls, and you can spend those souls on levels, but you could lose them. If you die, you lose your souls, right? And they're just sitting there. And if you don't pick them up, and you die again, you lose all that progress to your next level. And it's a fucking tragedy, right? And this whole game is filled with tragedy and hardship, right? And it reflects the in-game character. It reflects the in-game character. You see how terrible and hopeless the game is, right? And the in-game character also sees the hopelessness of the journey he's doing. It's like 1 in a million. In order to meet the gods, go to New Orlando and save the kiln with the first flame, you have to literally beat gods and demons and shit, right? And if you don't feel like you're up to the task, you lose your purpose. You close the game, and you yourself, the gamer, becomes hollow. The gamer loses purpose in completing their task. just like the in-game character and the in-game mechanics that is spoken through the narrative. It's like one of the strongest like gameplay to story integration of all time. If I would use that buzzword word, gameplay narrative integration. Yes.
Could you bring up an example of like a character not following his tasks?
Okay. There's tons of them. Like every NPC you ever talk to, don't talk to them because you're gonna make them fucking doomer black pill. This is basically the black pill. If you become hollow, you become so black pilled that you can't even continue your life. And you just fucking you just become a fucking fentanyl zombie demon, dude. Right? That has no prospects in life. Right? One of them is our good friend Solaire. Solaire's purpose is to find his own sun, right? To be a illumination within the dark, right? And he's your only friend in the game. Everyone else is kind of like using you or like looks down on you or thinks you're like a dummy. This guy likes you. And he gives you the ability to play co-op. You know, like jolly cooperation, right? And this also shows like another thing, like you can, even if you're in a horrible situation, you can still help other people, right? Just like with Dark Souls, just like in life. Life is so sucky, but you can still help someone through that sucky time by being like Solaire and helping people. But you can summon him. When there's a boss fight, right, you can summon Solaire and he'll show up and he'll help fight the boss with you, right? His whole purpose is to be a positive force, a sun. But the more you go through the game and the more crazy and hardship he faces, he loses that kind of compassion, that beauty, that love and compassion, because he just sees how fucking horrible the world is and how impossible his task is to become a sun, to become a light in the dark, right? And if you don't do a certain thing, he goes hollow, he goes crazy. He sees like a maggot and he thinks it's like, oh, this is my golden sun. And it fucking brain controls him. It fucking goes on his head and he becomes mad and he attacks the player. There's another guy named Sigwin and he wants adventure, but all the time he needs help. He's kind of incompetent. He's not really good at this like action adventure fucking saving people shit, being a hero. So you always bail him out of these situations. But because of that, he loses purpose. He loses like wow, I always gotta be bailed out as a situation. I can't be the hero. This guy beats me every time. I'm not even fucking close to being a hero. And he hollows and he attacks you and his own daughter, dude. Once you go hollow, bro, there's no coming back. He took the black pill. He took the ultimate black pill. So, you go through the game, you're basically beating a bunch of people up. You go to this person, she's like a fucking hot fucking babe, dude. It's like the fucking hottest babe. Basically, you go up to New Orlando, you ring the bells of awakening, and you see like a girl with giant bazongas, right? She has like fat ass titties, and she's like a giant woman. Her name is Guinevere. She is the daughter of Gwyn, right? And essentially, you gotta collect the Dragon Balls. So Gwyn split his soul into 4 people, you know, and you're gonna hear this a lot. You're gonna kill these 4 bosses in order to progress. You know those 4 people? You gotta kill them, right? So you basically go on this mission to kill these people. But you see some weird shit, right? You go to this place called New Londo, right? And it's inhabited by this thing called the Abyss. What is the Abyss? All right? The Abyss is essentially the dark soul, right? Going haywire. Your dark soul has been oppressed by the dark sign for so long, it corrupting everything around it. If you just roll up to the Abyss, you will be corrupted by your own dark soul and you will just fucking die and become like a different type of hollow, a shadow-possessed fiend, right? So you need like a special ring from a Taurus, you know, that guy I talked about, you know, Taurus, you know, cool guy. So you fight these guys called the 4 Kings, and they used to be human. Gwyn, as a reward for all the lords who helped them out, he offered a piece of his soul. And this is like, you can do this, like, because the Dark Souls guy, he fucking, the Furtive Pygmy, the first, like, human, he shattered his soul and gave it to all of humanity. So Gwyn gives, like, a big chunk to his soul to, like, 3 people. He gives it to Seath the Scaleless for telling him the secrets of the weakness of the dragons, and he becomes a duke. Like, dude, like, Seath, this dude, like, he becomes like a dude, bro. He becomes like a politician, right? And he also gives help to the 4 kings, basically these guys who helped win throughout the war, you know. But those guys talk to this guy named Frank. He's another snake, but this snake fucks with the dark. He thugs with darkness, bro. And he says like a bunch of fundamental truths to the player. He says the reason why this is happening is he kind of explains the concept of the dark sign and of hollowing and all the abyss. This is all because the gods perpetuated the world unnaturally. This is unnatural. After the wind lights the fire, rekindles the flame, it forces the world to keep going. But just like us humans, we are like, it's gonna cause problems within the universe and within space. Like us humans, we're supposed to like die at like 20, at like 30, you know, right? But we have medical science, we have good food, we have all this stuff that keeps us alive for a long time. We're not supposed to live that long. We get cancer. Our bodies start deteriorating. There's wisdom teeth exist. Like, there's unintended consequences by perpetuating things that are not supposed to be perpetuated. And the abyss and hollowing and all that shit are a result of keeping this fake age alive. And Frank is like, listen, big bro, you're hella strong. When you have the chance to light the first flame, because you have a choice at the end of the game whether to link the fire or let it go into darkness, right? And become the Dark Lord, right? You have that choice. And he tells you, like, hey man, think about that. Maybe you should do that. You know? Fuck the fire. Fuck the gods. This world was supposed to be inherited by man. But now it's fucked. Because you gotta think about it. It's not that easy, right? Because, like, the Age of Fire is, like, kind of cool. Like, I like the concept of time, right? I kind of like that concept. I like the concept of space. Like, all that comes from the flame, right? And you see what the Age of Darkness could have. You fight the abyss. You fight horrible abyssal creatures. And if that's the future of the world, maybe we shouldn't have an Age of Darkness. So it's this very complicated choice of whether to light this flame and keep this kind of charade of the gods going, or start anew, but it's dangerous, it's uncharted, and it could have even worse consequences of what we have now, right? And that's basically the end of the game. But there's DLC, special DLC. Ding, 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 ding. So one of the epic gamer knights named Artorias. We sing songs of Artorias. We fucking love Artorias. He's a fucking base game. And in order to get to the DLC, you gotta like jump through a bunch of hoops. You gotta go back to the starting area. You gotta get a doll. You gotta go into a painted world. There's a painted world where there's a dragon lady. That's a little important later. But there's basically a painted world of like, oh, I don't want to deal with this war and darkness and shit. I'll stay in my painting. And all like the loser rejects go there. Like people who are like all fucked up and shit. They go to the painted world of Ariel. Right? But you get like a necklace, and basically Seath the Scaleless, he's like Epstein. He's like a little sussy Epstein. He kidnaps women. He's like a mad scientist because he wants to be immortal and shit. So there's these like crystal golems in the game. Those are abductors. They get women and they go back to Seath's castle and he experiments on them. And it's fucking weird. It's fucking sus. But there's this weird crystal golem that's like golden. You kill that, a fucking woman comes out. And she's like, wait a minute. Where's my town? Where's my city? Where am I, bro? And you know what she is? She's a fucking time traveler. She's fucking from the past, right? So if you get her necklace, something wants that necklace so bad it grabs you and then pulls you back in time. So there's this place, it's called a Deepwood Basin, and it's like a forest area, and this is where you find like the wolf. So in order to go to the abyss, to fight the 4 kings and to beat the game, you gotta beat the fuck out of this ugly ass wolf. protecting it. It has a sword. It's like the famous sword dog. Like, it's held the sword in his mouth. You have to kill the dog because that's the only way you can get the ring. You know, to go to the abyss. You have to kill a dog, yeah. You gotta kill the Pokemon.
I'm not doing this. You can't mix.
Yeah, so what happens is you go back in time and the abyss is fucking everywhere. The abyss is felting this poor city, right? And it's the same city that Artorias saved, and Artorias saved the beautiful princess and all this shit. But turns out, you walk through, you go through the environment, you see Artorias, but he's corrupted by the abyss. Artorias, one of the greatest knights, lost his battle at the abyss, right? The only thing he could save was his dog and his shield. His dog and his shield, they ran off, right? He managed to teleport him in time, but he had lost to the abyss. So he has a broken arm and he has his sword, and he's still one of the strongest boss. He's like the super boss, bro. He's like a Dark Souls 3 boss, bro. Like, he's fucking sick. He has like 2 forms, yeah.
The dog's a time traveler.
The dog is a time traveler. No, he stays alive. He stays alive so long, right? But you just go back to the past. So what ends up happening is there's cut dialogue. He actually speaks to you saying don't go close to the abyss, but since it's cut dialogue, I'm not gonna like kind of bring it up. It's just it's kind of like an interesting fact, and essentially you have to kill him, and you realize Manus. There's this guy named Manus, right? Who fucked him up this bad. He did battle with Manus and he lost, right? And he lost his like main sword arm, which is his right hand. So he only fights you with his left hand. So like, think about how strong Artorias was with his fucking shield and sword. Oh my god, he would have been fucking impossible. So you deal with Manus, and Manus is like he's called the father of Abyss. There's tons of theories about Manus. Is he the first man? Is he the third pygmy who shadowed the Dark Soul? Or is he just someone who is shadow possessed, who's like kind of like a dark version of a hollow? We don't know who Manus is, but you beat the fuck out of him like a G, and you save the princess, and you realize you were the hero the whole time. All that story of Artorias defeating the abyss, nah, that was you. But in order to give your respects to this great hero who sacrificed himself for his companion wolf, who tried to protect the people of this city and lost, you give him the credit and the honor of defending that city and saving that princess. And the sad thing is, if you do the DLC before you met the dog remembers you. And he goes, "Arr!" He's hella sad, and you still have to fight and kill him to take the ring.
Bullshit.
Because he's protecting his master's
This
ring.
is bullshit. This isn't fair. This isn't fair.
Yeah.
The worst part is when he gets low health, the rubber, he starts limping.
Dude, dude, they want you to feel bad to kill this dog.
I'm not doing this. I can't kill the dog. I'm not finishing first game. I'm not doing the DLC. I'm not doing any of this.
But yeah, that is essentially, that's the DLC, and you get some weird lore applications. Manus, people think he's just like a monster, but like the princess, she's like, I felt emotions from this beast. I felt anger, sadness, betrayal, and loneliness, right? So she's like, what's going on? It couldn't be from that beast, could it? So it reinforces the fact that your dark soul isn't this malevolent, evil thing inside you. It's your self, it's your emotions, it's your passions. But when it's suppressed by the dark sides, it becomes violent and it takes over. You're a human of death and passion when you are shadow possessed by the abyss. Right? And the abyss completely corrupts you. Like, you can't beat the abyss, bro. The abyss is fucking broken. And as long as like the age of fire is still around, the abyss will always be there to corrupt and fuck people up because their dark souls still exist in the world. And that's it. That's Dark Souls. That's basically the lore. So you basically have two choices. You either kindle the fire, or you let it die and become the Shadow Lord. Fucking the hero of the fucking shadows. The canonic one, the guy just lights the fire. That's the canonic one. Because we have Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 to go through. Yeah, that's the final lore of Dark Souls. Is there any questions, Jess?
You forgot to mention what happens to Gwendolyn when you meet him?
When Gwendolyn? Well, yeah, I guess that's a good point. So Gwendolyn, you would think he would die, like, being part of the first flame, but he's not. He's, like, physically, like, linked in this fire. You know, I'll just add, like, a little king guy. He's literally linked to the fire, like, forever, right? So when you fight him, like, this guy's Zeus. This guy's, like, God. Like, he's, like, that guy. He's literally that guy. But you see him, and he's weak, and he's pathetic, and he's like a shell of a form himself. He's almost like a hollow, in a way. Right? This God is nothing but a hollow shell of what he used to be. And he protects the first flame, and when you kill him, that's when you get the choice of picking whether or not you want to start, relight the fire, kindle yourself to start the Age of Fire again, or let the world be shadowed in darkness. And Gwen has kids, and this is important later on, but he has with the capital T truth, he has 3 kids. With a lowercase t, he has 6. We're not sure who is actually his fucking canonical children. It is not explicitly explained. But he has 3 canonical true with the capital T, 100%. There's no way he doesn't have these kids. That's Guinevere, Gwendolyn, and the one that shall not be named. That guy's mysterious. We'll talk about it in Dark Souls 3. But yeah. Another thing is, again, the gods are capping. And basically the prophecy of the undead curse is a grift. It's bullshit. It's a Ponzi scheme. All it does, when you fucking put souls in the fire to level up, when you kindle the bonfire to level it up, you're giving soul power to the first flame. That's what you're really doing. Right? So in order to keep the fire going even longer, they do all the descendants of the furry pygmy, the humans, to constantly collect souls, give it to the bonfire, and keep going and be reliant on it. Right? So the undead curse isn't real. Right? You're not going to cure the undead. The chosen undead, that's a fake title. Right? All it is used for is to maintain this grift, this fake thing, perpetuating till forever. And the reason, also, everything has lore. Even how you heal, the Estus flask is liquid fire. Because when you're by a bonfire, you're linked to the first flame. Dude, it heals you, right? Because it's disparity. It's literally pure energy. It heals you up. And the Estus flask is what you're able to bottle up and bring with you. So while you're walking about, you take damage, you can have a piece of the first flame in your pocket, heal back up. Right? Every mechanic has a story significant reason why it's there, which is what makes it so fucking based. Yes.
What's the deal with reverse hollowing?
Reverse hollowing it's kind of fucked up. Because you have the undead curse, right? And it perpetuates in your body. Humanity is another living soul. So you offer that soul to take the curse for you.
Oh.
So you're able to you look human. It's a little fucked up. It's kind of fucked up. But yeah, that's where it comes from. Any questions? Any questions, Bonnie?
No.
Okay, we're gonna go on Dark Souls 2, but Dark Souls 2 is fucked. Alright? Dark Souls 2 was not directed by the Go. Actually, I should have kept this shit down. But we're gonna get this fucking timeline right back up. Right? Because Dark Souls 2 was not directed by Miyazaki. He was too busy working on another game, right? Called Bloodborne. And he was working. Development of Dark Souls 2 started immediately after Dark Souls 1. Right? And during that time, Miyazaki was working on the DLC for Dark Souls 1. So in order to get a new game out, right? And they're like, oh, well, Miyazaki's been working on this franchise for a minute. Let's give it to some other dude. Right? Some other guy. Right? Named Shibuya. Mr. Shibuya, he takes on the mantle to make Dark Souls 2. Right? And this game is in development for a minute. And it goes through development hell. Like the hell. Right? And everyone's super excited for it. It's probably like the most controversial game. One is by a different director. One is the black sheep of the franchise, and it has like a lot of weird mechanics that like never come back until like Elden Ring, right? It's like this weird take. Like what I don't like about Dark Souls 2 is like I can't blindly hate it, right? It's just like this weird product of its time and its development, and it introduces a lot of fascinating ideas that I kind of wish came back. Like there's this mechanic for you to basically bring new game plus into your regular gameplay, right? So like the cool thing about Dark Souls 2's New Games Plus is there's new enemies, new drops, like all the locations are way different in New Game Plus, right? But you have the ability to activate a bonfire stick, and that whole area that covers that bonfire becomes a New Game Plus area. So you can find New Game Plus enemies, and you can revive bosses. So you can refight. This is the only game other than Sekiro where you can refight bosses and just fucking mine souls all day. It's fucking sick. Like tons of cool shit comes from Dark Souls 2. Power stamping. If you have two weapons of the same weapon category, you get a totally different moveset. It's fucking base. But also, Dark Souls 2 also has some of the worst things in the whole franchise. This thing called adaptability affects everything. How fast you drink your Estus is affected by this one stat. How the iframes, your invincible roll, is affected by how much adaptability you have. Right? And if you go into this game blind, like me, and you have no clue about this shit, you get fucked up. You rolled and it's like, bro, I got hit, what the fuck? It's because your adaptability is not high enough to dodge this shit. It's fucking insane. It's insane, bro. And the development of Dark Souls 2 essentially is super complicated because the director made a bunch of comments. And this is the very first time the debate of like, should there be an easy mode? Like that shit started. Because Shibuya said he wanted to appeal to a wider audience and make people like everyone like Dark Souls. And like the whole fan base fucking had an uproar and like, shut the fuck up, bitch. You don't know about Dark Souls, all this shit. So there's tons of like negative press, right? And Dark Souls 2 was marketed with all these like advanced, because it was going to be on the PS3, right? This is like the PS3 era when games are starting to look way more realistic and way more awesome and fascinating and all that great shit. So Shibuya is struggling to think, and Shibuya is no joke. Like, listen, he's not some kind of soft dude. He's a veteran. He has 7 years over Miyazaki in director experience. Right? Miyazaki, he's young. He's a young buck. He started directing his first game like a year ago. Like, he only has 2 games under his belt. He has 3 games under his belt. But he's a relatively new director. So, this experienced guy was going to kind of change all the Dark Souls. Right? But halfway through development, it was not working out. So they decided to get rid of Shibuya. Shibuya was no longer on the project, and this new guy named Tamuta? Yeah, Tamuta. He's the new director. So wait, listen. The amount of press, like Bandai Namco put everything in Dark Souls 2. Like, the trailers were insane. Again, this is Spike TV era. Like, there's this fucking commercial when they remake a whole armor out of real fucking steel and carbon fiber and shit of the Dark Souls 2 armor. And they're like, this is the type of armor you can expect in Dark Souls 2. There was gameplay releases. There was demos. They were pushing this game. Edge magazine, fucking edging magazine while you're edging. Dude, this shit was this hyped up, and everyone was excited for Dark Souls 2. It was supposed to change the fucking game, bro. But halfway through, no one knows. No one knew that the development was fucked because Shibuya's vision wasn't working out. We can't make this game accessible. This isn't a Dark Souls game. So we gotta fire this goofball or move him somewhere else and send this new director, and he'll do all the interviews. And the amount of press that this guy did is insane. Miyazaki said, while I'm directing a game, there's no way I can fucking do these meetups, right? These like interviews with magazines and stuff. This shit is fucking impossible. But he went to every single one, right? And then finally, the game comes out. The game comes out around 2014? Yeah, 2014, like 2 years later. Alright, around there. And
2014?
yeah, 2014. Everyone hates it. But why? Is it for the gameplay? Because adaptability is fucking stupid? Is it because it's not the same director and the vision's all fucked up? No. It's because of the graphics! People only gave a fuck about the graphics. Literally, everything I could find about Dark Souls 2, I'm like, oh, why is this game so controversial? Everyone shitted on the graphics. Like, this looks like a PS1 game. This looks like a PS2 game. But okay, listen, torch physics, dude, they advertised the torch physics so much. Right? You were supposed to, like, listen, it was supposed to be like a risk reward thing. Do you want to play the game in the dark? Or sacrifice your off-hand to go down a tunnel of darkness with your torch, right? Yeah.
Didn't they do that in 1?
Well, not with the same technology. And plus you had like you have light suns and shit.
Oh, okay.
You didn't have to, like, they were gonna center the game around that shit. Right? And that's why it was so hard to make Dark Souls 2, because they had all these assets for this thing they designed for, and they had to reuse them in a different fucking way just to make it work, just to make a Souls-like game. But people didn't even give a fuck about the gameplay. They're like, the game's fun, but it didn't look like the demo. The demo looked way better. Right? And it's like, over time, people were like, oh yeah, also the gameplay's bad. But that came way later. No one gave a fuck about the gameplay until like the graphics. People just shit out the graphics. Another thing. DLC comes out for this game. Not 1, not 2, 3 packs of DLC is for Dark Souls 2. Right? It has the most DLC out of all, like, from software games. Bloodborne, 1 DLC. Sekiro, 0 DLC. Elden Ring, 1. Dark Souls 1, 1. Demon Souls, 0. Dark Souls 3 gets fucking 3. And what they do is they bundle up the game. This is like the biggest grip of Bandai Namco history. So they, no joke, bundle the DLC, add a shit ton of enemies that makes the game worse. They just flood the game with enemies and they sell it full price. And they call it Scholar of the First Sin. And they added like 1 ending. That's it. There is no other changes. They didn't fix adaptability. They didn't fix any of the fucking bugs. All they did was add hella fucking useless enemies that make you want to die. And they sold it for fucking full price. And that's Scholar of the First Sin. Infamous game. Infinite. But people also love this game. Again, it's a black sheep. You can't hate it because it also adds a lot of cool shit that kind of wish that shit came back. Power stance is cool. Bonfire stance is such an interesting concept. You know, low-key, the torch gameplay could have been cool. You know, like, I have to make it. I gotta think as a gamer. That's crazy. Yeah.
So, just be clear. So, you're saying that there was a earlier version of the like a base game of
Yes,
it
there was
that
a demo that had those
most-
graphics, that had those mechanics. That was shown in E3 and in Tokyo Game Show, in places like that. People played that demo. And low-key, Dark Souls 2. Actually, go on to the Dark Souls 2 music. Let's go on to the Dark Souls 2 music. But yeah, the game was not it on release. And it's the most controversial game in the whole franchise. Mostly because it had 2 directors. And now we can finally go on to the story of Dark Souls 2. And honestly, it's pretty fascinating. I fuck with it. I actually got a lot of appreciation. I was gonna fucking cut this segment down to like 10 minutes because I'm like, fuck Dark Souls 2. This game sucks. But the story is actually kind of interesting. So, you have another badass name. You know what you are? You're the chosen undead. No. You're the bearer of the curse. You're the bearer of the curse. Fucking badass name. Sick ass name. So basically, you drop into this guy in this land called Drowned Lake. Drowned Lake. You go to Drowned Lake because, bro, you're undead. You got the undead curse, bro. But in this game, the undead curse is fucking way worse than Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1, the only way you became black-pilled is if you chose to be black-pilled. Like, man, I'm so depressed. I have no agency in my life. Fucking black-pill. But in this game, dying in Dark Souls 2, you literally lose pieces of your memory and your mind. right? You forget shit. You forget who you are. Like in like the main character, the bearer of the curse, you have like a family, you have like a fucking wife or child or something, but you don't remember their names or faces or anything. They're just like fucking blobs because you've died too many times. So you want the cure, and somewhere in Drowned Lake, right? I'm not gonna lie, this is also fucking cringe because like you go to the lands betwixt, right? Between you're in like limbo, and there's these fire keepers or old hags, and they're like, we're playing Dark Souls. Like literally, they're like, you're gonna die. Welcome to Dark Souls. You're gonna lose your souls over and over. Like it's like the game's like jerking itself off, saying like, bro, this game's so hard, you're gonna lose all your souls. Yes.
Wasn't the title also called?
Yeah, Prepare to Die. Just
Yeah.
Like it was super lame. Like I thought it was the lamest thing ever. But yeah, they're like, you're gonna fucking die, motherfucker. But these are firekeepers, but they're like retired firekeepers. Like they don't want to keep doing their job because I didn't mention this, but basically, there's like big bonfires and there's like little bonfires. But the big ones, they have a woman. Let's draw like a woman. For now. They have a fire. My artistic masterpiece. That a firekeeper is someone who's linked to the flame itself. Like you can't escape it. You only die when the flame dies. So have the bond keepers want you to relight the flame so they can just die and not have this job anymore. But that's how you level up. The only way you level up and add power to yourself is through firekeepers. Firekeepers give you the ability to use the souls from the outside and add it upon your own. Right? That's a power only firekeepers have. So you go to Drowned Lake and bro, you want to be able to cure the undead curse, but this place has history. So back in the day, there's this guy named King Vendrick, and he's like a Giga Chad. His dick is huge, his fucking balls are huge. So he kills the 4 great ones. We do not know who these guys are, but he did that. He did that shit, and he's able to establish like an epic kingdom. He has like a nerdier beta like little bro, and his name is like Oldir, right? Or Olmir, and he's just like, oh yes, bro, I love experimenting and shit. So all the enemies, like the Chimera Beasts, are all from him, right? So him and his brother, they get in an argument over something that's happening. So during this epic reign of his kingdom, the undead curse happened, but they don't know that it's the undead curse, right? They think it's like a literal disease. They think it's like the Spanish flu or some shit. So like they like lock people up because they're like, oh, they're sick, and they keep fucking reviving and shit, and they're turning this hollow thing, bro. This sickness is crazy, right? So they treat it like any other sickness, right? And behind every great king is yes.
So we'll be clear here. Dark Souls 2 is like from a completely different area. And
Yes, but like this, it's like yeah, it's a different era, but a lot of time went by, like a lot of time, and it's hinted that the fire was relinked a couple times, right? So shit's been happening for a while.
So people just kind of forgot.
Yeah, it's like a legend. Like Gwyn's like it's kind of again he's like Zeus, but he's like a myth. We don't really know for sure what happened. Like, they don't know that this is from, like, this undead curse thing. That happens later on. They discover it.
First character's dead.
So King Vendrick is a fucking Giga Chad boss. But behind every great king is a bad bitch. Is a bad bitch who wants to take it on. So he meets this girl named Alisandra, right? Or Desandra. So Desandra's like, oh, great king. And she's like fucking smoking hot. She's like a bad bitch, bro. So he goes, yes, queen. He goes, yes, queen. So she convinces him to go to the land of the giants and fuck them up. I did not bring this up, but all the giants in every single From Software game get felted and they die horrible deaths. Like if you're a giant, you're gonna get fucked with. In any one of these universes, it doesn't matter if it's fucking Demon Souls, Dark Souls, all of them. You get fucked up as a giant.
I guess this is.
So King Vendrick, he brings his army to fuck up all the giants, and he receives something great. He receives the power to transmute souls. He can move souls into inanimate objects. So he creates golems, right? And it's fucked up. You kill a giant, and not only you do that, you stuff that bitch in a golem, and you say, hey, you're an elevator now, move up. And he has to listen to you, right? So he gets this power, right, of transmuting souls. But the undead curse is still going on, bro. It's still happening, right? And it turns out it's all about the first flame. And like Olmir, his like ugly little brother, he finds out he's the scholar of the first sin. So the first sin is, of course, Gwen linking the flame, right? That was the first sin. But it's not just that. It's way worse. It's not just he's perpetuating this like grift of like, I want to keep in power, I want my family to be in power. No, he fucks with the fabric of the universe. He fucks with nature itself, and nature is striking back, giving people the undead curse, causing people to become corrupted and go hollow. The undead curse, like, people need to die, and this age needs to end, but because he committed that first sin, the natural course of how the world was going to go is not going to happen like it was going to. Right? The Age of Darkness was supposed to be a gentle end of the world. But now if the Age of Darkness comes, it's going to be a violent and horrific age. Right? All because of his sin that he has committed. So Uldred has an idea. Why don't we become the first flame? But we link ourselves to a bonfire so we can live forever through souls. Right? And Vendrick's like, no, motherfucker, I'm not going to do that. So the two brothers have a big falling out. Right? And he stays in his mansion. Basically, he has this fucking manor where he experiments on people. He's not allowed to leave it. And that's what happens. And he talks to the player. Throughout the whole game while you're walking around, you can turn on a bonfire, you fucking explode, and like this giant head, and that's him. That's fucking Olmir. And he's just like, oh, bro, let me tell you this fucking lore, bro. And he gives you this fast lore. So what ends up happening is you're getting past, and you're getting all the old Lord souls. Because the souls, they don't go away, they're recycled, right? The fire recycles souls, and they come back out, right? So you pick up, like, Quinn's soul, and you pick up fucking the Nido's soul, and the Witch of Angeles soul. Like, you pick them up throughout the game, and this shit is keep on happening and happening. This is when the cycle, like, the game about the cycles really begin. Because this shit is not ending, and it's almost derivative. It's a derivative age that's rotting away to the seams. And there's multiple kingdoms you go to, and you see how they go down under by the same effect. And our boy, Vendrick, is on the same level. So he realizes that Alessandra is not a goody two-shoes bad bitch queen. She's someone who desires power, right? And she wants to be able to control the first flame and control the darkness and do all that shit. She lusts for power more than anything, right? But the power to cure the undead curse is with Vendrick himself. So he locks himself away in this place called the Shrine of Amana. And in Amana, there's like these people who sing, they go, like they sing. And if you're like a dark creature, if you're like a dark wraith or like a shadow possessed like hollow, you hear the singing, you go, ah, you get felted, you get fucking destroyed, right? So he's safe down there, and he buries himself there for years. And he basically has to abandon his kingdom to Alessandra because she just controls it. She controls everything, bro. Right? And he decides not to make a choice. He doesn't walk away from the flame, embracing the realm of fucking darkness. He doesn't even kindle the fire. He chooses nothing. And when you see him, he's like Gwen, but worse. He's just like a hollow dude walking in a circle, dragging this big ass sword. And that's how the motherfucker ends up. Right? And this is when the Firekeepers become waifus. This tradition starts in Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 1, there's no fire. The Firekeeper is just an NPC, like an old NPC. You can ignore the whole game and not even realize there's a Firekeeper. In this game, you get the Emerald Herald, right? And the Emerald Herald wants you to relight the flame because she wants to die. She was supposed to be the longest lasting firekeeper ever. Because she's not only firekeeper, but half dragon. She was experimented to be half dragon and half firekeeper. So she's forced to fucking be here forever. So she wants something to happen with the flame. I don't give a fuck what happens. If there's darkness, if there's fire, I just want to leave, you know, and have my own like sense of relief. Right? And this is when the DLC, because originally there was no option to walk away from the flame. That's from Scholar of the First Sin. Right? You had to relight the fire. But then the DLC happens, and the DLC is literally half the game, dude. So you have to find the cure of the undead curse. And what it is, it's crowns. Right? There's these 4 crowns. You gotta kill 4 guys to get these 4 artifacts to be able to progress. So the first DLC is the Sunken Kingdom. This guy, he has a kingdom in this kind of like cave place, and there's a dragon, right? And the dragon absorbs all the poison and makes it livable for everybody. So everyone like worships the dragon shit. And then, like every great king, there's a bad bitch to come and ruin it. So a queen rolls up and she's like, "Fuck this dragon, dude! Fuck this dragon!" You know? And they wake up the dragon. When the dragon wakes up, poison fills the land, killing every one of those inhabitants.
Stupid bitch.
And you explore the Sunken Kingdom, you kill the dragon, you get the crown of the king. Next up is Fire Keep, or fucking Iron Keep. The Sun Keep. So you go there, and it's about the Iron King. And the Iron King, he's like an arrogant dude, because I got iron, bro, I'm like hella strong. And he gets like a samurai as his guard. And his samurai guard's been teach everyone like fucking karate and fucking showing them how to use a katana. It's fucking crazy. But the Iron King is so arrogant and such a fucking dickhead that he suffers and he dies. But the bad bitch that was supposed to fuck him up is there too late. She's like, "Wait a minute, my king's dead. I'll just stay here and die." And she has the crown. So you beat the knight protecting her, you get the crown. Called the Fume Knight, which is the hardest fight in all of Dark Souls 2. I was at the Fume Knight for fucking ever, dude. Fuck the Fume Knight. It's a bunch of bullshit. Next up, we got the final DLC. And I'm not gonna lie, this is the only good DLC. This DLC, the Ivory King DLC, is one of the most badass things. This is like a gimmick boss done so right. So basically, you have to find the Ivory Key. And the bad bitch that was supposed to corrupt them, she is this is the final reveal is all those queens who fucked up those kings, you know, Alessandra, the Sunken King queen, the fucking Iron Keep queen. Dude, this queen, they're all daughters of Manus, the guy from the DLC, from Dark Souls 1's DLCs. They are her daughters, and each one of them has an emotion of anger, of lust for power, of sadness, and this one, of loneliness. This is Manus' loneliness. But the Ivory King is such a giga chad, he makes her good. He makes her like fall in love with him like genuinely, and they're like a couple, bro. And it's like badass. But what ends up happening, yes.
What? No,
Okay. But yeah, what ends up happening is, you know the Flame of Chaos? I talked about that, like how the Witch of Isless became a demon and made her own kind of bonfire, her own kind of kill of the first flame. That's still there, and it happens to be right under his house, right? So he's like, "Babe, I have to go deal with this," right? And he jumps down this big ass hole to basically hell, and he gets fucked up and corrupted, right? But what you have to do is gather his old knights. So you have like a squad, you have like an army, right? So you recruit all of the army members and you jump, dude. You know that Yu-Gi-Oh card, Heroes from a Different Dimension, when they're dropping down the portal? It's just like that. So you get all these badass like ice knights and you fight the original guard and you fight the Ivory King, dude. And he gets, no joke, like a fucking beam fucking sword. That's fucking huge. It's sick. It's like the best DLC ever. It's fucking badass. So you beat the Ivory King and you get his crown. And when you get all 4 crowns, you're no longer undead. You can't hollow. Because like hollowing is a mechanic which is really cool. Which is actually not cool. I actually hate this mechanic. Because every time you die in Dark Souls 2, your maximum amount of HP goes down. And the more you die, you can lose half of your maximum HP. It's fucking terrible, bro. Another reason why this game's ass. So like, but with the crown, you don't have to worry about that. You don't become undead. And that's it. That's the whole game. There's no final boss. There's no reason why you collected these crowns. You literally have this crown that doesn't make you hollow. There's no final boss. There's no nothing. You just beat the game like a normal person. But is that the point? When you have these crowns and you don't have to deal with that, and you don't have to deal with hollowing, you just survive. Are you actually like the ultimate hollow? You're just standing around seeing everyone else lose their fucking mind to dementia? Yeah.
You were a hollow the whole time.
You have the undead curse.
That's
So
why
you have the
you're
potential
told
of becoming hollow. Right? That means when you die, you come back. But you come back and a piece of you is missing. A piece of your humanity is missing. But yeah, you're alive. And you're like Vendrick. Vendrick, sure he had the undead curse and all. But, oh fuck, I totally forgot this. The way you learn about the crowns is you time travel. That's right, there's time travel. Basically, the giants hate Vendrick so much that once you get a certain soul, you can go into their past and see what was actually happening. And the person who repelled the giants, because the giants got so mad that Vendrick stole the orb of transmuting souls, they went after him and attacked his capital kingdom. And the giant king died and they all retreated by an unknown hero. Bro, that unknown hero was you. That unknown hero was fucking you, motherfucker.
Can I stop doing shit and not knowing about it?
Right? And then, dude, what's also cool is the first boss is that king. So after all this time, he just goes, he's like a golem, and then he like looks at you, and he's so angry that he like overrides his fucking like processing and tries to kill you because he knows that you were the hero who fucking killed the giant king. It's fucking nuts, bro. It's fucking nuts. So like Dark Souls 2, it's literally bullshit, boring, horrible gameplay, and then peak for no fucking reason. It's fucking bizarre. But yeah, you go back in time, and what's really cool is you can go back in time and talk to Vendrick at his prime, right? And you just see like he's like in the bunker, bro, just like, I lost my kingdom, bro. What does it mean to be a king? Should I light the flame, or is that perpetuating the cycle, right? And like the reason he chose to do nothing is because one, there's nothing much he can do, and two, he didn't even want to feed into this. Like this is darkness is my only option. Fuck that. I'm doing this by myself. Fuck it. I'm not gonna make a choice, bro. Right? Because all this darkness or the perpetuating a grift, I would rather fucking do nothing than do that. Right? And that's what he chooses. And you can choose that too if you have the crown. Because you don't get dementia like everyone else. Right? But at the same time, inaction is also an action. So are you actually making everyone's lives fucking miserable by not picking a side of lighting the flame or walking away from it? You know what? And that's the story of Dark Souls 2.
I mean, at this point, no matter what you do, yourself is still getting fucked.
Yeah, you get fucked either way.
There's no point.
And that's Dark Souls 2. After that, we'll go to Dark Souls 3. Do you want to go to break, or you think we can crash through Dark Souls 3 real quick?
It's probably.
Are you saying we're like halfway there?
Yeah.
I should take a
How
break.
long
All
is
right,
that?
we'll take a break. We'll take a
How long
break.
is that? I got one question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What does Panthers do when he Dark Souls 2?
He's not in Dark Souls 2.
Like
There's a
fucking
spiritual because Miyazaki's not there.
How do I pause this bitch?
They were at the thing.